YouTube. What's up? It's your boy ET. Welcome back to the page. How y'all doing out there, man? I know it's been a little minute. Hey, man, I got a full-time job. I work every day. YouTube. Trying to make this a second job, man. But I appreciate all the support, man. All the comments. I appreciate all the views, man. I'm thankful for every view, man. Every comment. So if y'all y'all know what to do. I don't got to keep telling y'all. Welcome back to the page. Today we talking about missing 411. Yeah, yeah, we talking about all the people, not all the people. When we talk about 411 missing person cases, we talking about people who were not found. We're not talking about people who were victims of animal attacks, serial killers, um, just accidental deaths, you know, that go on in the forest, and on the trails in these national parks. We're not talking about those people because those cases are solved or they know what happened to these people. They found evidence on top of evidence on top of evidence. So we're not talking about those people. What we're talking about is the people who were never found. No trace, no blood, no bones, no clothes, no shoes, no socks, no nothing. We talking about people who were never found again, and they can't find evidence of a crime scene or you know some type of struggle that happened, along these trails. So the look, let me break something down. The most two interesting missing person examples to me, over all of this time listening to, of course, listening to David Paulides, shout out to David Paulides. I know he covered his 411 case. He got a whole channel where he's talking about different cases where people are coming up missing. So I'm interested in the people who work at these national parks, has worked at these national parks for years. I'm talking about years, 5, 10, 20 years. And all of a sudden they just come up missing one day. They go out on a route, they go out on their normal routine, and they come up missing. Don't come back. And another example would be kids, toddlers. Um, People, that can barely move around. How are they just disappearing? Off these trails from these hiking trips with their family. I'm not talking about the cases where it comes out whether the family done something to the kid or the family created this whole false narrative about what happened to the child. I'm not talking about those cases. I'm talking about the whether the kid was actually in the park, traveled with the family, was there, multiple witnesses seen these kids there, and they still come up missing. They can't find a trace of them. So what y'all think happened to these people, man? Let's talk about it. It could be only a few reasons, a couple of reasons, man. Like I said, either it's a serial killer running around these national parks, and it got to be a lot of them, and they never been found. No, I don't know about that. How y'all feel about that? I think we would have some evidence. The police would have been and came out and said something about, hey, I know national parks like to keep their cases in house. They don't they don't they do their own investigations when it comes to these national park disappearances. So some cases, of course, there's been serial killers who have roamed these national parks and have killed people in these national parks on these trails. I'm not talking about them. They were caught. They were, it was evidence. It was a crime scene. They knew it. They knew what happened, exactly happened. They found the remains of these people. I'm not talking about them people. We're talking about people who were never found, no evidence. So for it to be some type of serial killer, they have to be the best. The world's most. Hey, no, they can't be. They not found. They'll know we haven't been on the news that somebody's been locked up for killing 20, 30 people in in a national park and being caught. And like I said, they would find these remains anyway. So I don't think it's not a serial killer that's taking all of these people and they just disappearing. There's no way, because there's been plenty of evidence of this happening. So, yeah. So, hey, number two, what could it be? Like most people, a lot of people like to say, "Hey, man, it's a Bigfoot running around in the park, man. Bigfoot grabbing people, throwing them over his shoulder, and taking them down underground to Bigfoot to their family." Hey, okay, I'll listen to your story about that. But what is the evidence of it being some type of Bigfoot animal that's running through the forest? How is it not making noise? How is not nobody, no witnesses to this big animal taking people from out the national parks, throw them over their shoulders, running through the trees, and and they should be caught every time. Because you got to remember, a lot of these people going to these parks, a lot of them are by themselves. I know a lot of campers like to camp by themselves. A lot of people who go walk on these trails, exercise, see the nature, see the out, just love the outdoors. I know a lot of them like to go by themselves and don't hike with a lot of people. But even if that's the case, you still have multiple people, hundreds of people, maybe thousands of people hiking in these national parks at one time. They're just so spread apart. They don't really run into each other. But you still have a lot of people hiking and walking these trails. So it would be multiple witnesses of some big old 9, 10 feet, 12 feet animal running through the forest, taking people, throwing them over their shoulder, and running into a cave. I mean, unless they got some type of special power that we don't know about, maybe, you know, maybe. But I'm thinking logically, they're gonna make a lot of noise. You're gonna hear, people gonna say, "What's that?" It ain't gonna be. It's gonna be some type of witness, something like that, man. I don't know if it's. How many of y'all think if it's a Bigfoot going, taking these people? Even though there have been cases where people walking through the forest now, and they said they've been kidnapped by a Bigfoot and was taken to their, place where they live. Now, I heard people say this. Yeah, there's been people who've been interviewed and said they've been kidnapped by a Bigfoot and their family, and hey, they communicated with them, kicked it with them, whatever it is they did, and then they let them go. So I don't know, but I know it'll be some type of evidence that the police will find, the state park rangers will find. Sometimes the federal government's involved in these missing person cases, so they will find something. Hey, this is something that's not human. They will see probably plenty of evidence of that. If a big animal that weigh 400,000-500,000 pounds run through the forest, you think of how many tree limbs is going to be knocked down, huh? Think about it. Think about how that would look. You know, some kind of evidence you will see that. So I ain't sure if y'all think, hey, am I wrong? Let me know. Get in the comment section and let me know, man. Some people, hey, another reason some people think that, hey, these people are just vanishing and walking into another dimension. Hey, what y'all think about that? You just walking on a trail one day, minding your own business, hiking, and the next thing you know, you step through and you in a whole nother time, a whole nother, a whole nother dimension, you know, a whole nother time that you do not recognize. Some people believe that happens. That's like a natural, um, a natural time gate, that forms on the earth. Some people believe a lot of people believe we have those just naturally. you know. So is that happening to these people? Are they just walking into another time? A whole nother, you know. So some people said that have happened to them walking through the forest. That actually have happened to them. So could that be something that the national park people don't want to tell us about? Hey, be careful. Some of these, some places in these forests, in these trails, you know, you might walk right into another time zone, another dimension, from a whole nother time, 1600s, 1700s, just disappeared. No longer in this reality, just in a whole nother reality. Some people believe that's what's happening to a lot of these um, hikers that's going missing on these trails in these national parks. And that would explain the lack of evidence. When they bring out the cadaver dogs, why can't a cadaver dog find? If they send a cadaver dog out to find your body and it has a scent of you, most likely they're going to find it. Most of the time, they're not just going to lose the scent in the middle of the search and be, like what happened? They lost the scent. What do you mean they lost the scent? Sometimes that happens. I know sometimes that probably can happen, but come on. If the dog loses the scent on a road, if it leads the police to a road and the dog loses the scent, what do you think? Common sense, man. A car, it probably was kidnapped. A car came and took him. So the dog lost the scent because the person is in the vehicle now and have driven away. But if a dog loses a scent in the middle of the forest, out of nowhere, no street, no highway, no road, no nothing, what happened? Some people believe that person, hey, something from above, a UFO, took these people, lifted them. That explains the lack of, they lost the scent, lack of evidence, no trace of nothing, no clothing, no remain, no blood, no hair, no nothing. These people are just disappearing. Or sometimes they find them in places that they shouldn't be. I think one case, a 5-year-old boy traveled so far, they was like, how the hell he end up all the way over here, 100 miles away on this side of the mountain? A whole nother side of the mountain, man. A kid who can barely walk, just now learning how to walk, can barely walk. How can he travel that far through all of that? Rocks, trees, water. Man, I don't know. Y'all let me know in the comment section, man, what y'all think about it. I'm not talking about the cases, like I said, I'm not talking about the cases that's been solved. I'm not talking about people who's had accidents in these national parks. Of course, that happens. Um, that happens all the time. They find evidence of that. They find people. Sometimes they don't find people. Sometimes they find clothing. You know, they find something. Most of the time, I think. Some people say David Polite is making up a lot of these stories. A lot of them is made up, or he not telling the truth about it. I really don't understand. If it's a case, a missing person case, then if it's a missing person case, it's a missing person case. How do you make that up? What are you making up? The evidence that was found, or if there was no evidence found, but hey, it comes out later that evidence was found of what happened. You know what I'm saying? What is it? What's happening to all these people? Are they going underground? Is something taking them underground? Is it something that our government got to do with it? That our government is doing some type of experiment or taking these people? I always been curious about these missing 411 cases. Especially the people, like I said, especially the people who work at these state parks, who know these trails, hell, better than they know their own way around their own house. They walk these trails so much every day. How can they get lost? There's no way. There's no way. There's got to be something else taking place on these trails that we just don't understand. You know, are they not telling us? It's probably something we can understand, but they're keeping it under wraps. You know, they don't want it to get out because it's going to stop a lot of tourism and a lot of people coming from these to these national parks. What y'all think? Hey, this is what they say. It's going to stop a lot of business. So they really don't want to say really what's happening in these national parks. So they, keep it amongst themselves and investigate themselves. Hey, I ain't never seen nobody do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, this person been going from national park to national park hurting people. We don't know where he put the bodies. He can't find them. He just admitted to all these murders. I don't know. I never really heard of that. So it's got to be something that's happening to these people who work at these national parks and go one day go out on their regular routine, on their regular day at their job that they do every day, and then they don't return. All the co-workers go out looking for them, don't find nothing. Don't find nothing. They know what area they cover. They know. Remember, this is a job, so they all know where everybody is going to be, what area they're covering, what trail they work, everything. So they know what it. They're not going to be 50 miles all the way on this side. Like they ain't going to go. There's a certain area that they cover, so they shouldn't be roaming too far. So how they just disappearing and not finding these people, even when they bring the cadaver dogs out, they still can't find no trace of these people. Some people, they might have fell down into a crevice. You can't find them. Yeah, that happened. Helicopter have to come to find them. Helicopter find them sometimes. But what about the people who no trace, nothing, nothing? What y'all think about that, man? It's your boy ET, man. Appreciate y'all watching the video. I'll be back at y'all with another video, man. Y'all know what to do. You know what I'm saying? You like this video, y'all know what to do, man. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel.